with ZipRecruiter. News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
5:05 on this beautiful Monday afternoon. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update as we've been enjoying some sunny spring-like weather, and it's going to feel more like summer by the time we hit to the end of this week. I'll get to your weather forecast coming up in just a minute. Well, hundreds have been paying their respects during memorial services for Utah Congresswoman Mia Love. Love passed away back on March 23rd at the age of 49 after fighting a type of brain cancer that she had battled for 3 years. Now, her public memorial service was held this morning in the Institute of Religion building of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on the University of Utah campus. Her viewing, meanwhile, was held last night and demonstrated just how impactful Love was in her private life and as a civil servant. She held many titles, including wife, mother, mayor, member of Congress, and media commentator. Now, her former campaign manager, Dave Hansen, said that she was the best convention speaker he had ever seen, emphasizing that her efforts to memorize lines and inflections were unmatched. Now, her longtime friend, Sarah Haley Nitta, director of the Education and Development of Prevent Child Abuse Utah, traveled to Tampa with Love back in 2012. She said that Love had democracy in her bones. Well, Governor Spencer Cox ceremoniously signing a bill into law on Friday that will eliminate the use of cell phones in the classrooms for Utah students during the upcoming school year. Now, Governor Cox held a ceremonial signing for Senate Bill 178. It's known as the Devices in Public Schools Act. Now, the signing happened along with other legislation related to tech safety. Governor Cox said the phones have become a major distraction and that this bill will hopefully reset the default to encourage healthier, more connected learning environments while still leaving room for local decision making. Now, Senate Bill 178 allows local control by requiring local education agencies, otherwise local school districts, to make policies that limit the use of smartphones, smartwatches, and other emerging technology in the classroom. Now, if the districts do not create a policy, then the law now requires the school to follow a default policy, which that devices are not permitted in classrooms. Now, the bill was officially signed into law back on March 25th and will go into effect July 1st. And a man was shot and killed by police outside a Springville residence Saturday night after reportedly stabbing an officer during an unprovoked attack. Now, Springville police say that officers were dispatched to the scene about 10:25 Saturday night on reports of a woman that was screaming and crying. When officers arrived, they found the woman inside the residence, and as they were investigating, a man exited the house and attacked an officer with a large knife, wounding that officer. Now, police drew their weapons and fired at the suspect, striking him at least once. Officers performed life-saving measures while waiting for medics who transported the man to Utah Valley Hospital, where he later died. Now, the officer who was wounded was treated at a local hospital for 9 non-life-threatening injuries and was later released. Well, we've enjoyed a lot of sunshine this afternoon with some clouds as temperatures have been in the mid-60s. Now tonight, we'll see overnight temperatures drop into the low 40s. With a few clouds overnight, could bring a small chance of a raindrop or two through the area. But tomorrow, temperatures expected to be around the low 60s, and then we'll stay in the low 60s for Wednesday, get back into the 70s on Thursday, and mid-70s with more sunny weather continuing on Friday. And it looks like Saturday also supposed to be sunny before we see another storm coming in on Sunday. News and weather this hour brought to you by Whole Tree Care, where right now you can get 10% off tree and shrub trimming. It's the best time to do it before they leaf out. It's Whole Tree Care. Give them a call today at 760-6587. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update.
The bugs love the good weather. I'm guessing you have a bunch of those creepy crawlers waiting patiently to come into your cozy home. Let Logan Extermination take care of those unwanted pests with a monthly exterior spray. Now, for a limited time, they'll spray your home's exterior monthly from April to October for only $65 per month for a 2,000 square foot or less home. Call Logan Extermination before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
In our rural communities, EMS volunteers stand ready to help every day. Volunteers are ordinary people performing extraordinary acts. Many of these heroes lack access to essential health insurance for themselves and their families. It's time to give back. Utah has a new program that offers no-cost medical, dental, life, and long-term disability insurance to our rural EMS volunteers. Families may also be eligible for low-cost options. Become a licensed EMT, AEMT, or paramedic, and you and your family may be eligible. Visit utahcounties.org to learn more. That's utahcounties.org.
Your landscape should be a place to relax, entertain, and spend family time. Canyon Landscaping designs and installs livable landscapes that define space in new or existing yards. Hardscapes with retaining walls, paver and stone patios, and walkways each create privacy, interest, and purpose, plus fire pits and sitting walls to add value to any yard. Go to canyonlandscaping.com for more details, then call to schedule your free consultation. Call 752-3838 or go to canyonlandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. Look for the leaf.
Here's what some of our patients have to say about how Red River has changed their lives.
So before I started at Red River, I was having a lot of stomach pain. I was overweight, severe anxiety. I had been to multiple doctors. We had done tests and no one could find anything that was wrong. And then a friend mentioned Red River and I went and saw him and it has changed my whole life. I'm sleeping through the night. I have energy for my kids. I've lost 30 pounds. No more stomach pains. I just feel really good.
Our goal is to focus on imbalances that are driving your condition or symptoms, not just give you Band-Aid answers. So when a patient comes to our office, we'll sit down with them extensively and go over their blood work to find out the underlying imbalances driving their symptoms.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. Jumping right back in to make the most valuable use of our time here for our friend Eric Franzen of Cache Valley Daily and KVNU, also host of the Full Court Press on 106.9 The Fan. Eric had an opportunity recently to sit down and talk with a Cache Valley family who just happened to be the Gar family, parents of Letitia Gar, who is a contestant on ABC's The Bachelor. She's also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and her experience filming reality TV, her family's experience watching her go through this process, and what it was like for her to come in setting some boundaries because of her faith of things that she would and wouldn't do on a show that oftentimes goes a little bit close to, if not beyond, PG-13. A fascinating chance to go behind the scenes of ABC's The Bachelor. And thanks again to Eric Franzen for joining us. Here is Eric and the Gar family.
Recently, season 29 of The Bachelor concluded on ABC, and one of the contestants, her family is from Cache Valley. Grant Ellis was The Bachelor, and a variety of different contestants from all over the country. And one of those was from Salt Lake, but her parents currently live in Cache Valley, Rob and Mari Gar. They've been gracious enough to let me talk to them about the whole experience. So Rob and Mari, thanks for coming down and spending some time. And you were on national TV for a while, and your daughter was too. So this is quite the experience. So thanks for at least letting us ask you some questions about it.
Thank you for having us.
Let's just start off with how this came about. I mean, this series has been going on for a while, several years with The Bachelor. You know, the contestant goes on there and tries to find love. And it's a bit superficial. Certainly we can all recognize that, but it's a big hit and people watch it and tune in. But, you know, people do find legitimate relationships through all of this. Your daughter, Latia, How did she become involved in this? Was this something where you guys saw an opportunity and she's single and thought, hey, maybe you should try this out? Or did she find this on her own and seek your blessing? Or did she not seek your blessing and just, hey, I'm doing this? What was that process like, Mari, for your daughter to get involved in this series, in this TV show?
She's watched The Bachelor for years. I mean, I think many women do, just for fun and just to see what it looks like for other people to fall in love. And she had friends tell her she should go on it, like a few times. And even a friend that works in the industry that had said, you'd be perfect for this, you should come. And, of course, I don't think she ever thought she actually would or really wanted to until one day she and a friend were watching it together. They're both single, and I think they just thought it would be funny and fun to apply. And so they did. And I think that was on a weekend, and Monday morning she got a call from them. And it just started going from there. And it really, it went quickly for her to be one that they wanted to be on the show.
She goes through her initial process of being a contestant, and then if she makes it, she stays. So when do you even find out, like, this is actually happening for her? Or do you just, like, we haven't heard from her from a while, and we just assume that she's on? And
that's exactly how it happened.
So then really the first contact you have with her is when she calls you, when she's on her date with Grant?
Yep, that's right.
So that was something that was interesting on the show that I didn't, I'll admit I watched it only because I knew you guys and I knew she was involved. I'm not really a Bachelor aficionado, but watching it was interesting that when she was on her date with Grant, she FaceTimed you. I didn't see any other dates with Grant do that. And I don't know if that was something that just wasn't shown or if that was something that was unique. But what was it for you to finally see, oh, this is Latia and this guy and interacting with him and your first contact with her since you sent her off?
So her producer messaged me that afternoon and said something like, Latia's really missing you. She'd really like to talk to you. Are you available this evening? And I said, yeah, of course. And what they didn't show was that morning there was some sort of activity with the girls and Grant, and I don't really even know for sure what it was, but it was something about writing poems for some reason to express emotion. And Latia had chosen to write hers about me. And so I think, I don't think they know when they're filming what they're actually going to show. So they didn't show any of that. So it kind of was, it didn't really make sense. I didn't think when you watched it why they were calling me. And in fact, I didn't know when the producer asked me if they could call me. I thought it was going to be Latia's homesick. She just wants to talk to me, maybe get a pep talk. Maybe she wants to come home. Maybe she's decided she doesn't like him. Like, I had no idea. But then a couple hours later, she said, we're going to film the call. So I thought, oh, well, that's like another twist I didn't expect. And then and it was going to be a FaceTime. So when I answered and I saw her and Grant both on the phone, and I just was like, oh, how are you guys doing? And, Grant was saying a few things like about, of course, just praising her and telling me how wonderful she was and what a great job we had done raising her. And he talked about the poem, but I had no idea what the poem was. I asked, like, are you guys alone or are all the other girls there? Like, what's happening? And she said, no, it's just he and I on a date together. And it was pretty early. She'd only been gone, I don't even think, a week. So when I saw that they were on a one-on-one already, I was like, oh, this is, the fact that he's taken her on a one-on-one pretty early is probably a good sign. And they were both emotional. She was very emotional. I think she was homesick and just emotions from what she was going through. And even Grant was very tearful, just praising her and just talking about our relationship mostly. So yeah, that was kind of what the experience was. And we didn't talk very long, maybe 5 minutes or so. I wish I had recorded it because there was some stuff that was said on there that's been a controversy, actually.
Oh.
But anyway, I didn't record it, but I do remember what was said.
Well, so we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
Because some things that happened later on that I want to circle back on that. But So what other contact do you have with the show after that? Because they do other things. Apparently, they go international. She continues to have these dates with him, and clearly, and she seems to always get the first rose whenever they do these ceremonies. So clearly, there's a connection there. But what are you guys just like? What's the time gap between when you actually see her and talk to her until you find out from the show that this is actually progressing a lot farther and they're going to come and visit with you guys?
In Latia's suitcase, Mari had put an air tag. So we knew if the air tag moved, and sometimes it would kind of freak you out because they would actually, before every rose ceremony, all the girls would have to pack their bags just in case they were the ones that were going home. So sometimes we would notice that her air tag would move out like to the parking lot of where the mansion was where they were at, and we're like, oh no. And then the next day it would move back in, and we're like, okay, that's probably, and actually the no news is good news was actually kind of what we would go with. So if we didn't hear because we kind of knew, all right, today's a group date, today's an individual date, today's a rose ceremony.
But then you see that air tag go international. And what was that like? Just keeping keeping tabs on that air tag as it flies across the ocean.
It was so funny watching Mari where it was going. She's like, "Oh, they're in London. They're going to be in London," and then, "Oh, it's in Spain," and So anyway, just based on where the air tag was, So
that is wild. So eventually, she gets far enough where they do these home visits, opportunities to go and visit with these contestants' families. So what was that process like for you guys to decide, okay, we're going to be hosting not just our daughter and this guy that she's dating or seeing, but a host of TV cameras and producers? And how did you decide on where to host that and who to involve in that?
Latia had actually talked about it a little bit before she left. Like, this is what I want to do. And our family is a little bit unique in that we've moved around a lot, because Rob was in the Air Force and all of his medical training. So the place that we live now, she's never lived. And the place that we lived the longest, we have no connection to there anymore in Tooele Valley. So we didn't want to go back there. Anyway, there was just really no place that we literally have lived as a family with Latia living with us that would make sense. But she's very, very close to my side of the family. And when we do things as a family, that's like her favorite thing in the world is just for all of us to be together like that, which includes aunts, uncles, cousins, and my parents. So, and where we normally do that often is in Wyoming. We have a lot of heritage back there. And also that I have a brother that lives there now that hosts the family reunions often, and that's where we usually have them.
Well, and the other thing was that, like she said, her brother coaches in Star Valley, Wyoming. And we initially thought that the day that they would be the hometown would be Friday, and her brother-in-law said that's actually homecoming day. So I know we have a home football game that day, and so we were like, that would be awesome to take him to the homecoming football game where her uncle is the coach, the football coach, and just kind of hang out with the football team and do some of that stuff. That'd be kind of a cool hometown. It ended up that they then said no, it'll be on a Monday instead, but we'd already kind of put the wheels in motion to go to Star Valley, and so then we just found a different place in Star Valley. But
so what was that process like, though, when this is going to happen, you've got your destination figured out, you've got your date set, and then they all start rolling up, and here's Latia and Grant, and you get to meet them in person and see how they interact with each other. What was that like for you, Mari, just seeing her with this guy that you would FaceTimed with for a few minutes, but now you're seeing them in person?
It was really, really good to see her, first of all. Just, it had been a long time since we'd seen each other, so that was wonderful. But then she glowed. I mean, she was glowing when they showed up. And they showed up actually, before they came and met with us, they had gone on a horseback ride. And so they were already together when we met them. And they both just seemed really in love. And it was really wonderful to see her be so happy. And I know that one of the reasons she was happy was because she was with all of us, but to bring him and show him the part of her life that was so important to her, I think was really, really neat. And he he seemed very comfortable with us. We tried to make him feel comfortable as far as just, this is our family. This is what we do. And the body language between them was pretty evident that they really liked each other. You know, it seemed to us like they really, really did like each other. And then the camera crews, I mean, there was, I think 40 people that came.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So they just all rolled up in their black Suburbans, and everyone starts to come, you know, and they actually were there setting up everything before we even got there. And we ended up using a cousin's cabin with a lot of property. And that was just so that we didn't have to go from the horseback ride to the property and take a lot of time moving everything around. We could do it all in one place. And so anyway, the crew was all there, first thing, setting everything up. We show up, they're already all there. They've got it all figured out where they want to have the horseback ride, where they want the family to be, and set up where we're going to have our one-on-one interviews and stuff. So anyway, there's a lot of people, a lot going on, but it was fun because we were all just there, and we were just so excited to see her and to see her bring someone home to meet.
So for Rob, you had a chance to sit down with Grant, and that was one of the things that they featured was kind of these individual interviews that they have with family members and parents. So did it feel awkward trying to have a one-on-one conversation with him, even though there's like cameras in your face and everything like that? Or did it feel like, you know what, I just kind of going through the motions here because we need to do this? Or like, here's somebody who's actively courting your daughter. What's that process like?
I think Mari and everybody else that was at the hometown had the greatest time of their lives. Maybe even, you know, it's on their highlight reel of greatest events. It was horrifying for me. It was terrible. I was just a basket case of nerves. You know, just as being the father, but I think more than that, I kind of felt the weight of, and they kind of did make it a big deal on the show. They made a religion a big deal, and I was like, I don't think I should be the representative of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on national television. You know, I'm not. I don't know that I'm the greatest representative, but I felt the weight of that, and I don't know. I didn't want to be on TV anyway. A nervous wreck. You know, I just didn't want to be the reason that he's like, I'm not going to end up with this family. No way. So I felt the weight of that.
Well, so you brought up an interesting part too of her journey through this, is that she was not bashful about sharing her faith, that, you know, what she thinks is important to her, and the fact that one of the things that they pointed out on the show was this is the first time that she kind of brought a non-member of that church home to visit with you guys. Was that interesting to you, or was that conflicting? I mean, how did that process play out for you? One, just kind of watching her stand up and openly declare her religion and how much that was important to her. But then on this sidebar too about bringing a guy home that isn't a member of her faith and your faith.
Of course, we were aware of it, and we just had decided we wanted to make sure he knew that we would love and accept him for who he was, that him being a member or not a member of our faith was not a determining factor whether we would accept him into our family. You know, we knew from things that we'd seen and read about him that he was a man of faith, that he believed in God. And in my interview with him, he brought up with me that he knew Jesus Christ had died for his sins, unprompted. I didn't ask him anything about religion. He brought it up. And so I felt like we were on the same page as far as the core beliefs of God and our Savior. But I didn't really want that to be a deciding thing for him. If they loved each other and they had a common base with what they believed in as far as God and raising their family, to know that God was important and he loved them. And that was like the main thing that we wanted to get across to him. If he was a member of our church or not, that was not going to be, you know, a deciding factor of whether we would accept him into our family.
And I mean, watching this show and what the producers chose to include, I mean, it seems to come across very evident that, I mean, that was very clear from you guys and from your family, and that that was something that he was somewhat drawn to her for her faith, and that she seemed grounded in that.
But how much of a challenge was that in your conversations with her after the fact? That, you know, on this show, there's a lot of alcohol going everywhere. There's different activities that are going on. There's a strong influence to have these physical connections with the contestants. And in the end, she makes that very clear. Like, I'm not going to do this, with you. I just want to make sure you're clear. I mean, I guess just how did she handle some of that aspect of things that the show is trying to do, or makes it very easy for people to do, but she was standing with some of her religious principles through the core of that?
I mean, it's kind of funny how much of the conversation after the whole show was done was discussed about, what will the edit look like? Our hometown, like she said, there were 40 people. It was a, 10-hour shoot. They did probably 2 hours of interviews with my son Jackson, another hour and a half with my son Ethan. They probably did an hour and a half with me. They did probably 2 hours of Mari. And what you see on TV is 1 minute and 40 seconds with me, maybe 3 minutes with Mari, 0 time with Jackson, who, like I said, spent 2 hours interviewing with them. But, to answer your question a little bit, and Latia worried about that too, like, what is the edit going to look like? How much of an emphasis? And in fact, she was a little bit sad that they made it a big deal right before the hometown visit that she discussed her religion with them for the first time, because she said that was not actually the first time that they discussed it. But the reason that she wanted to discuss it right before is because she talked to him about being, a member of the LDS Church before, but she could tell that it didn't really register what that meant. And so right before the hometown visit, she kind of wanted to understand, look, this isn't just, like a Easter and Christmas religion, I mean, it's a little bit different in the sense that, and my family actually, in my family, we live this religion, so I want you to understand a little bit more about that going into it. So.
And she also wanted him to know there wouldn't be alcohol served that day. That was something that was different probably than maybe the other hometowns. There won't be alcohol. What else? I think
usually they bring the family a bottle of wine, and she was like, that probably won't work with this family.
Right.
Yeah. And he, it was interesting. I kind of thought he would ask more questions about our church. He didn't really ask many, and I don't know if that's because he didn't know what to ask, or he didn't care, or, I don't know. I think that maybe we just made it clear enough to him that we accepted him either way, that we didn't need to go into the, the doctrine and the details of it.
But it appeared that he respected a lot of the things that she held there and what you guys talked about. It appeared that he respected that, and it seemed to be something that could be at least a foundation for him and her that they could build on. So, I mean, again, according to the edit that was shown, but I mean, your interactions with them appeared to display that as well.
And I don't think she intended to be anything other than who she is, as far as like the standards she would uphold while she's on the show. Like you talked about, the environment's not particularly what we normally consider normal as members of the church, but she was willing to just be there and be herself and live, the way she believes and what she believes is important to her. And I don't think she felt any pressure to do the things that they sometimes do on the show. Like, she's just like, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I will and won't do. And if you like me that way and you want to be with me, this is who I am. So
you're listening to our conversation with parents of a contestant on ABC's The Bachelor. Parents located here in Cache Valley, and of course, interesting look behind the scenes of reality TV, but also what it's like for a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to go on network TV, a show that oftentimes runs right up against, PG-13, even maybe a little beyond in some of its content, and for to put down boundaries and say, because of my faith, here are some things I'll accept and not accept, and have the show accommodate her. Really interesting stuff. Part 2 of this conversation with Eric Franson of KVNU and CacheValleyDaily.com and the Gar family here in Cache Valley continues after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. Utah State University releasing the next steps in its process for its budget cuts and reallocation, which will inevitably involve layoffs. Interim President Al Smith acknowledged the concern that many had about the current higher education financial challenges and what it means to its employees, and also noted that there's no easy solution. Now, Smith wrote in an email that went out to USU employees last week that there will be no way to avoid job cuts. USU, of course, is facing a $4.8 million budget cut from last year's legislation, as well as a $12.5 million financial impact from this year's legislation in House Bill 265. Now, Smith said employees will receive updates in the coming weeks by email and on its reinvestment planning website about changes to administrative, operational, and structural parts of the university, and that will be followed by information on programs that will end or be modified. Now, Smith also noted that under House Bill 265, USU may adopt new policies that override others in order to achieve the goal of the legislation, which means existing policies tied to tenured roles, curricular changes in other areas will not be applied when implementing its reinvestment plan. And Joe Lake, who is co-founder of the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, has passed away, according to the organization, at the age of 82. Now, Lake helped launch the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals that was headquartered in Salt Lake City with Marie Osmond, John Schneider, and Mick Shannon back in 1983. According to the organization, he had a vision of bringing people, communities, and corporate partners together to support their local children's hospitals. Now, since its founding, the charity has raised over $9 billion for 170 children's hospitals. He reportedly traveled over 300 days a year after the organization was founded. He would visit hospitals, creating partnerships across the U.S. and Canada. His work also helped create and organize the network as it is today. And a man was killed and his daughter was seriously injured after being T-boned by a drunk driver over the weekend. Now, the drunk driver, identified as Colby William Baya, a 24-year-old, reportedly has a history of DUI convictions.
Welcome back to KVN News for the people.
Homicide and other crimes. On Saturday, a witness told officers with the Salt Lake City Police Department that Baya had ran a red light and T-boned a vehicle.
Bachelor underway.
Baya killed 49-year-old Ernesto Puga in the collision. Puga's juvenile daughter, who was also in the vehicle, sustained substantial injuries and was transported to an area hospital.
Had a chance
Officers
to sit
said they
down
made contact
with the contestant and talk about the
several open
experience.
containers of
Continuing
alcohol
on
in his
part
car.
2 of that
His
interview.
speech was also
You're on
slurred. He
KVN
had
News
trouble
for the
balancing,
people.
and he smelled of alcohol and had bloodshot and glassy eyes. Well, weather-wise, we've enjoyed some sunshine today with temperatures in the mid-60s. Now, tonight, we'll see a few clouds overnight. Could bring a small chance of a raindrop or two for tomorrow. As temperatures Tuesday will be around 63.
Certainly there are aspects of the show that can be frustrating.
Sunny skies on Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday as temperatures are going to gradually warm up. By the end of the week, 75 expected for Friday afternoon before we see another storm possibly coming in on Sunday. News and weather this hour brought to you by Edson Builders, who've teamed up now with innovative home finishes. Yeah, when you are looking for the best when it comes to construction, call them at 232-2680. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News update on this Monday afternoon. More of KVNU's For the People show with Jason Williams is next.
ABC News, I'm Stephanie Officer. Chief Justice John Roberts has issued a stay that, for now, keeps a man in El Salvador's anti-terror prison. The midnight deadline for his return, set by a Maryland-based federal judge, no longer applies. ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
It's a straightforward directive from the Chief Justice, pausing the order of Maryland-based District Court Judge Paula Sinas, who had set a midnight deadline for the man's return. Having been granted protection in 2019, Kilmar Abrego Garcia was not supposed to be deported to his native country, and the government says his removal last month was a mistake. But the administration also claims Abrego Garcia was an MS-13 member, and it argues that now that he's back in El Salvador, there's nothing the American courts can do about it.
A popular musician gets a high honor. Jelly Roll receiving the Global Literacy Award at the World Literacy Summit, celebrating his global influence from the University of Oxford as part of the World Literacy Summit 2025. This is ABC News.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology for an appointment and let them show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. As the stock market shows its almost daily disapproval of the White House tariff plan, investors are largely avoiding scooping up discounted shares. Hear why many are choosing to keep their cash on hand. Also, a side-by-side comparison of America's lopsided housing market and why the cost of owning a pet is about to get more expensive. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. You've been listening to a Bachelor contestant. ABC's The Bachelor underway, and one of the contestants, as you've learned, has Cache Valley ties. KVNU and CacheValleyDaily.com's Eric Franson had a chance to sit down with the contestant and talk about the experience. Continuing on, part 2 of that interview here on KVNU's For the People.
From a parent watching her go through that, I mean, that's got to be a little point of pride, just watching how she handled a lot of things. There was drama in the house. She seemed to handle that pretty well as well. Certainly there are aspects of the show that can be frustrating and difficult, but I'd imagine there's certain points where you're watching it, you feel a lot of pride for how she handled things.
I think so, yeah. We were proud of how she did and thought that we had a fair edit. And, sometimes I think she'd get a little bit upset about the things that they left out, but watching it as a viewer, not knowing everything that went on in the house, like you said, I thought I was proud of how she did.
After the hometowns and all this stuff, it's clear that she's getting to become a finalist, that there's this couple has feelings and she's going a little bit further down the road with this. Ultimately, it comes down to these two women, and it appears that he has strong feelings for her. In the finale, she says that he expressed his love for her many different times. She always received the first rose whenever they had a ceremony. It seemed like she was going to be the one, and then suddenly she's not. So you talk about things that weren't included that maybe should have been. What was that like, and how much of a shock was it to her that she wasn't chosen?
It was a complete shock, I'll be honest. I had talked to her several times that week and the night before after they'd gone on their date, and she said, I'm getting engaged tomorrow. Like, that was what she thought, according to what he had told her. So, yeah, you could see it was evident when we watched that she was blindsided, 100% blindsided. She had no idea.
She doesn't get the final rose. And then she comes home. And what's the time between when it's done and when these episodes start airing? Like, you have this big gap where but you can't say anything about it. But like, how does she handle it? Like, where does she go after all of this?
So she came back to our home for a couple weeks to kind of recover. She actually was very, very sick in the Dominican Republic. She got food poisoning and was sick. If you watch the zipline date, she mentions it several times, and I think the way they edited it made it look like she was nervous to do zipline. No, she was sick. And then the night of their overnight also, she's very sick, and it was not a pleasant experience for her the whole time. So when she came home, she was still sick for a week or two, trying to get her digestive system back working, and her heart was definitely broken. There's no question. She was really emotionally broken, really. And so she stayed with us for a couple weeks, and then she went back to work, just carried on with her life.
So what was the gap between when the show, or when they finished taping, her experience, to when the show actually started to air, and you're like, okay, we know the results,
right?
But now we have to wait till this is going to start. And when this does start, I'm going to start getting peppered with questions from people I know, maybe even people I don't know, but they're going to recognize me. And how do you prepare for that, Rob?
That was actually probably the most difficult part because, not that many people knew at the very beginning. And, I never knew that sometimes I didn't want to tell people because I'm like, I never know if, when everybody starts to find out, then next thing you know, she's coming home. But, as she went on and like people started asking me, at the hospital, so how are things going? And I'm like, yeah, she's still in it. And then all of a sudden when it got down to the final three, and then when Latia was told that it wasn't her, and then she told us, she's like, don't tell anybody. And we'd actually had to sign a non-disclosure agreement with them when we did the hometowns that we wouldn't tell anybody either. So anyway, I was answering questions and kind of talking about it. And then, everybody's like, well, we know it's over. What happened? And I'm like, I can't say. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm not supposed to tell anybody. So that part was kind of hard. And people would just pepper me with questions to see if they could read my face. And I'm not a very good liar, so I think some people knew well before, but that was a tough part for sure.
And the filming ended October 31st, and then it started airing end of January. So that was
a long gap.
Yeah, almost 3 months.
It was like 3 months of trying to keep it under wraps. And believe me, all the cousins wanted to know. They had met him at the hometown, and they all want to know, and it was tough, really tough.
And then when the episodes start airing, and people, I never reached out to you guys until after it was done, but some people, I'm sure, neighbors, friends, associates, relatives, like, oh my gosh, I know those people. They're on national TV. I know that girl. So they start reaching out to you. How much of a challenge was that once it actually started airing, and then starting to see how people are reacting to how your daughter's doing on this national TV show?
There was a sister in our ward that actually was talking to her young women about it. Oh. And she said, there's this girl that you have to see. She's on this Bachelor show, and she's representing our church very well. And you guys should watch this show. And all of the girls looked at me like, yeah, that's Mari and Rob's daughter. That's Latia Gar. That's her last name's Gar. And she's like, what? Are you kidding?
Because they don't put last names on the screen.
She texted her husband in all caps, you are not going to believe what I just found out today. So that was kind of fun.
But most people were pretty like, we know you can't say. So I think that it's the general knowledge that we can't say. And so most people say, no, you can't say, but, and then I would say, yeah, you're right, we can't say. So, we just blamed it on the show. Like, yeah, sorry, we can't say anything. Yeah.
So, you're a heart doctor here in the Valley. You have patients who are like, hey, Dr. Gar, tell me about what's going on. I saw you on TV last night. Did you have experiences like that?
More since it's aired and, since it's been over. But yeah, some. And it's kind of funny because I think, you're 82 years old. You actually watch The Bachelor? Yeah, I have daughters, I have granddaughters, so it's funny how many people that you would never think watch it that then know. So, yeah.
And a lot of people like to say, I don't usually watch it, but since I know it's your daughter or it's someone I know, we watched it this season. I'm like, you don't need to, defend yourself, and you don't need to watch it. Like some people would say that too. Like, I haven't been watching it. I know your daughter's on. I was like, there's no obligation whatsoever to watch it.
I want to get to the live finale when it's finally made public. You guys obviously already know the results, but you get to be there in support of Latia, and she gets to confront Grant after all of this. Watching her go through that, was that something she was looking forward to? Was that a challenge for her to have to do that? Was that the first time that she had seen him since that ceremony?
Yeah, there'd been no contact since. I don't know that she was looking forward to it. I know she was looking forward to it being over so she could move on, because they can't date, or, when they come home from the show, they can't date. And she couldn't date until the finale was over because, then people would know she wasn't the one that he chose if she was dating. So literally she's kind of on hold waiting. And I don't think she particularly was looking forward to talking to him either. How it ended wasn't great for her, and how he handled some things wasn't great. So, but I think she was just anxious to get it over with and say what she needed to say, and so she could move on.
What have you observed the reactions since that has aired, and since it's been known, and in watching Grant and the other girl, I can't even think of her name anymore, but what's that process been like for you guys, and certainly what you've observed with Latia and what she's been going through since it all became public and final?
This is the part where I don't really know what to say because, we have a point of view, and I'm sure other people have different points of view, but
it's been good and bad. I mean, I think it's been hard for her to, she's had a lot of attention. The number of followers that she has skyrocketed. But with all that attention, some of the attention is negative. I mean, a lot of people are saying, she kind of changed personalities right at the last second. She was always nice to him, and then all of a sudden when he said, "You're not it," she, changed fairly abruptly, and people brought attention to that and said, well, what did you think was going to happen? And I mean, most people that watch it don't realize, that these people are pretty attached, so she really was blindsided when that happened. And it's hard for her to read, all those negative comments that are people specifically going to her Instagram page just to insult her and things like that. So that's tough. But then there's been an outpouring of love as well, and lots of people that have supported her and said, thank you for standing up for women, and I thought you did a great job, and you were strong. You handled it better than I would have handled it. Things like that. So good and bad, but unfortunately the bad kind of really cuts. And she has her ups and downs as well. Just talking to her.
The hardest part is the untrue things that are being said, and honestly, by those who actually know the truth. So, and I'm sure that's normal in these situations, and people remember things differently maybe, or think that she didn't perceive it correctly, which when someone says certain things, I don't know how you can perceive it differently, but for them then to go say she's not telling the truth or it wasn't how it happened, it's all on film. There's no question of what went down. I think that's the most hurtful thing is, yeah, you can dump me and we can be done, but then don't go and try to change the story about what actually happened so that I look dumb or bad. Like, I know what happened. So, that's the problem with social media and the internet is people can say anything they want and they have no idea what actually happened. And all they can go on is what people who then go out in interviews say. Like, they don't know. So anyway, that's the hard part is just people's opinions.
So where does she go from here? Going through a process like that, I'm sure it'd be really tough and challenging emotionally. As you said, it broke her emotionally. But now all of a sudden there's a lot more people out there who have seen her and now officially know she's available. I mean, is she open to dating? Is that suddenly increased her opportunities? Or is she just like, what, this is going to take a while?
Well, as you saw on the show, she's very ready to be married and start a family. So yes, she's back on the market and very, I mean, I don't know that she would, want it to be said like that, actually. I mean, she's just moving on with her life. Yeah, she's going to keep dating and finding someone. And yeah, obviously there's a lot bigger pull now because she's been on TV and people know what she looks like, and they also know what she stands for. Like, they know her values, they know her personality. So yeah, I would expect that there would be a lot more people she will get to know because of it.
For you guys, are you happy that this is just finally done now?
Very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been eager for this for months, yeah. I'm sure.
We knew last week Tuesday was going to be a great day. Yeah, we just were excited for it to be out so we don't have to tell people we don't know anymore, and also for her to be able to move on.
This is just as an aside, maybe this is more because personally I know you guys, but through this whole process, you've got a son serving a mission. Like, how involved or how informed, I should say, was he through this process, and how was he interpreting all of this, being so far away and not being able to be a part of it?
I think that he thinks his sister's crazy to do it he thinks the whole experiment is crazy. But he would just, mostly find out after the fact. We actually had a poster board of him that you can see in just one of the scenes, at the hometown.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
When you look at the whole group. So he was there, but only his poster. But anyway, he's been supportive, though, of his sister, obviously. But yeah, I think he thinks that the whole thing's a little bit crazy.
And then people in the mission find out from, their families. I mean, since she's a member of the church, lots of members are interested, right?
Sure.
And especially like she's from Utah. Oh, he's from Utah. So anyway, people made the connection and the word got down to Brazil that his sister was on The Bachelor.
That's funny. Well, what an experience. But I mean, as a casual viewer of the show, who I don't normally watch, but I knew I had to watch this season. I think I can speak for anybody who watched it. I think you guys represented yourselves very well. Certainly I know you personally, but somebody who wouldn't have known you personally would recognize this is a couple who loves their daughter, very supportive of her. She certainly loves them and represents herself very well. So quite a process. I'm sure you're glad that it's finally over, but I guess kudos on how you handled the whole situation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, and best of luck moving forward. I guess I should ask this too. From what I do know of the show, there are occasions where those who don't get chosen later on to be like in the position Grant was in. Is that something that's been presented to Latia? Is that something she would even entertain?
It has been presented to her. They've actually canceled The Bachelorette for this year. So, I guess in a year, if she's still single and they asked her, she would consider it. I mean, things change, and there is a lot of new management for the Bachelor franchise, so things could, I don't know. It has been presented to her. She has considered it. As of right now, nothing is moving forward with it.
Wow. Well, we'll wait and see. Maybe we haven't seen the last of Latia Gar.
To be continued.
To be continued. Rob and Mari Gar, thank you so much for coming down and spending some time with us.
Eric,
Thank you.
And thanks to Eric for that interview. Again, Eric Franson of KVNU and CashValleyDaily.com sitting down with the Gar family, parents of ABC contestant Latia Gar, and some behind-the-scenes looks at a very popular reality TV show that is actually filmed and kept under wraps until airing in weekly episodic network television. Fun to take a look at that. Thanks again to Eric and to the Gar family, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Hey, Cache Valley, are you ready for spring cleaning? Got old appliances, collected soda cans, old car parts, or cars? Are you a plumber or home renovator with scrap metal? This week, get paid your best price for your metal. That's right, we pay you for your metal. Our annual Earth Day celebration is here at Valley Metal Recycling from April 21st through the 26th. Enjoy prizes, giveaways, free snacks, and food coupons while keeping Cache Valley beautiful. No appointment needed. Just stop in 145 North, 10th West. Get paid to recycle and make a difference this Earth Week at Valley Metal Recycling.
John at the Duck Hunter asks, have you ever checked the dryer vent cover on the outside of your home? It could be broken, full of lint, or worse yet, you could have an unwanted guest living in it. John suggests you check your dryer vent today. And if you can't, call John at the Duck Hunter. He'll do a visual inspection, and if needed, run a camera through the dryer vent line to see what's going on in there. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
Our 100th spring is right around the corner. After a long winter's sleep, the open road is calling. And Murdoch Chevrolet can help you take those curves in style. Right now, receive 2.9% for 6 years on a new Silverado 1500. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan and Woods Cross or online at MurdochChev.com. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Call 888-391-6083 to see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 4/30/25.
Thanks again to Eric Franson, KVNU and CashValleyDaily.com, also host of the Full Court Press on 106.9 The Fan. Sitting down with the Gar family, an interesting look behind the scenes of ABC's The Bachelor and reality TV in general. The Gar family, of course, from here in Cache Valley. And so this latest season of The Bachelor attracted a lot of Utah eyeballs say the least. Fun interview. So wrapping up today's show with your, well, I don't know, if you don't like rats, this isn't really your feel-good story to go out through the night, but I challenge you to not find this super interesting. I challenge you, but a Cambodian rat has earned a world record for sniffing landmines. A landmine hunting rat in Cambodia set a new world record last week by sniffing out more than 100 mines and pieces of unexploded ordnance. Now, this isn't all feel good. The reason this is a problem in Cambodia is it's been the center of wars, decades of war, starting as far back as the 1960s. And, of course, it remains littered with mines. Children have been dismembered and even killed. And this happens to a few hundred people a year still. 30 years of civil war ended in 1998, and Cambodia was left with one of the most heavily mined country problems in the world. Deaths from mines total since 1979, about 220,000 fatalities. Twice the number of the people actually killed in the wars where the mines were buried. Yeah. So this is important work, and Ronan, a giant African pouched rat, has tracked down 109 landmines and 15 other potentially deadly war remnants since his deployment in the northern Preah Vihear province in 2021. They use rats because they're light enough not to set off the ordnance, and how they train them to do this is actually amazing. It takes years to train them to do this, and they are infallible because rats, the only thing with a better nose than a rat, of course, is a Labrador retriever. Cambodia has a goal of being mine-free by the end of 2025. They pushed the deadline back about 5 years from 2020 after funding challenges, and these rats, authorities say, are key to making this happen. So if you want to see photos of Ronan, the world record holding mine-sniffing rat, I've posted those via Yahoo News to our Facebook page. And thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 with another episode. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.